Hey, welcome to #Chiwanuka. This is the place where we help you unravel social constructs, discuss self-development in line with mental health, emotional well-being, and everything in between that directly or indirectly affects us in the millennial world around us. If you're hearing my voice for the first time and are the kind of person who is not scared of being a better version of yourself, even if it requires you to contradict who you were 24 hours ago, consider this your virtual home. I am your host, Chiwanuka, a lawyer, founder, team lead of Equate Foundation, an addict and lover of insightful conversations, and a professional unraveler of social constructs. With us today is the one and only Faith Mulungi. Faith is a digital communication consultant, founder of Imani Foundation, and the host of The Catch-Up. She is a multipotentialite, and in this conversation, we get to talk about what it is that inspires her to get all the work done in her areas of service. Mulungi is one of the conversation starters we have in our millennial times, and how she does that effortlessly is why we are here today. Faith, welcome to #Chiwanuka. Happy New Year.
Wait, you're still saying Happy New Year? When does it end?
What? Well, it's the first time I've seen you and I haven't wished you. I could meet you in Feb and I'll still say it. I don't know how long it takes.
Like October. When you see something like, oh, Happy New Year.
October is too late. October is too late.
They're quite happy, almost ending. But thank you for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
I'm glad. Hey, sometimes I text people and I'm like, but I'm overreaching.
To be honest, I don't think there is such a thing, or I don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
I started talking when I was 1.5 years.
Oh yeah?
And every time my father gets the opportunity, like if someone asks them about, how I was as a child, he says I was a very quiet but inquisitive child. Like I would keep quiet and then just break into a questionnaire session.
Yeah.
Why is this like this? Why is this happening? Like
it was a very question.
Yes, question after question. And he says that for some strange reason, he would always have answers for me. And for me, what that taught me, and he kept on recently admitted, like I was so scared about the kind of child or the kind of adult you would be, because people don't like people that ask questions.
They don't. People hate
and
questions.
It's like your curiosity scared me. Like I enjoyed it, but it scared me because I always feared that people would try to box you in. And so he's like, I'd always feared that you probably end up in politics, because you question the system, you question how things are done, and you do not, you would take no for an answer though, but unless the answer is satisfactory, you would not back down. So what that for me did is, no one is sort of like out of reach for me, in the sense that everyone I've met has something that I can learn from them. Sometimes I fear that that's a bit transactional,
but we're supposed to be in a symbiotic kind of place,
right? But also, like for me, I feel like how you have, hash time and I have the catch up, is there is always something, like there is always a story to tell. So I don't look at anyone as if they are out of my reach, that I'm overreaching. I don't think you are overreaching, because if you don't get those people, who will? Like, there is that story that I'm probably going to tell on hash time that someone else has not had.
Yeah, but then there are some people, I think I always imagine this. There are some people who always feel like, nah, you're not my kind. I'm not going to be on your thing, And
that's absolutely okay, though.
Yeah.
That's absolutely okay. But I think the most courageous thing is that you're knocking on these people's doors.
You are knocking. Oh my.
You get,
I like that.
Like you're going out of your comfort
that.
zone and you are reaching out. And I say this because I've struggled with self-image and I would always feel like the way I saw myself, the way I focused on my flaws, that's how everyone saw me. And so that would stop me from asking, because with time the system beats that childlike curiosity out of you.
Right.
They tell you to conform with religion and with society, quote in quotes,
Tradition as well.
exactly. And now when you enter into the gender dynamics, the fact that you're a woman, why are you trying to exceed
You just go
this
with the
box?
flow.
There is this format. And now that I know better, I would definitely applaud you for knocking on someone's door and they say no, rather than thinking they are going to say no in
you
your
just don't
mind,
try at
and you
all.
just don't try at all. Like that's such.
Thank
that's
you.
Such, I sound like a
Thank
motivational
you.
speaker, but
We're here for the motivation. The people need to knock on the doors.
please do. Like,
it's-
even if you're getting, and I know I don't want to oversimplify it, but do it. Find a way of making it work.
Yeah.
Find a way of saying, hey, I host this podcast. I'm pretty sure when you were starting out and you only had like 1 or 2 episodes,
Yeah.
and now if you look at how far you've come, it's because you've continually done the work. We can celebrate milestones because you've put in the work. So
Yeah.
go ahead, even if it's, I don't know who, just reach out, even if they don't respond.
At what point does someone say I'm blushing?
Well, then that makes me happy if you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, from someone who has for a very, very long time been timid and would give excuses, some of them valid. I upload anyone that says, you know what, let me just face this fear and go. I think it was 2020 when I adopted the mantra of here is to being scared and doing it anyway.
Oh,
Yeah, like that.
here's to being scared.
Yeah,
and do
because
it
you're
anyway.
going to be scared.
That's right.
It's a normal human emotion, but the fact that you carry with you that fear and you do what it says you should not or you cannot do, especially if it's going to push you forward.
Yeah.
I think that's a win, regardless of whether you fall flat to the ground.
I think some people might be already wondering, who is this person? Because the energy has started on like from the word go.
Well,
Help us understand who Faith
Yeah.
is.
Well, my name is Faith Mulungi, and I usually say I'm a firstborn because there usually are traits to us.
I didn't think when you talked about how curious you were
as a child.
as a child, I felt like it's mostly a trait that, anyway, it's also a personality, really.
I guess because I have a little brother. My parents got a late baby, not like late of dead, but they got a baby when they were celebrating their anniversary of being together for like over 30 something years. And
Wow.
he's called Joseph. He's 2. And my dad says it's so funny how full circle life is, because it's like Joseph is exactly like you. We call him Jojo.
Yeah.
It's like Jojo is so much like you. He's quiet too, but very bubbly when he's comfortable, and he asks questions. Like he asks. So I could definitely agree that it's a personality thing.
Yeah.
But back to the introduction, or for you to get to know me a little better. I am a feminist. I am someone that loves Jesus. The concept, the person, the being, I absolutely love Jesus, and I accepted him as my Lord and Savior when I was 8.
8.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what you were doing?
Yes.
You still feel like you made the decision with a sober mind?
Yes.
In awareness?
Yes.
How much teaching did they give you at that time?
No one. I don't know. It's a very out of a movie script sort of story, but yeah, as a little child, I was very imaginative and stuff. But I know I met a being, and life has been very interesting doing life with that being from 8. Because my parents kept on thinking it was a phase
Yeah.
that I would snap out of, and I just kept on telling them, no, I
What
met
was
Jesus.
that? You told them that you met Jesus.
Yes. I told them I met Jesus and I'm going to give my life to him. And they all looked at me like,
Did you know? What had you always heard those words? I'm giving my life to Jesus.
no, because I wasn't even like church going per se. I really wasn't.
Oh my
Actually, like the whole doctrine and stuff came in a little later. when I joined Compassion International. And that is because I loved how happy and joyful and grateful, like everyone that had met the same Jesus was back then. Like my conviction from back then to date is still as strong.
How? Like, do you mind helping us understand what it was like?
Like I said, it's like an out of movie experience, like movie script experience. One thing that I remember, we had a chair. There was a chair that I really, really like, a favorite chair. I'm those people who has a favorite everything.
I think everyone has a favorite chair.
Really?
I don't know.
No, like I have a favorite everything. I have a favorite I have many toothbrushes, and I have a favorite toothbrush. I have a favorite uncle. I have a favorite parent, like that.
They're going to find
No, but they
home.
know. They know. So there was this favorite chair in the house that I really loved to sit in. And to be honest, again, imaginative, or I don't know what, I would always sit in that chair and there would be this being. Contrary to like the portraits of him being white, it was just a being. Like I could feel the presence of that being.
It's not that you were seeing, but you felt it.
I knew there was someone there with me. And so I would always sit in that chair when I'm sad and I just talk to them. So this one time I was watching, I think it was Benny Hinn, and I was sick. And I had a habit of when I was not sitting in my favorite chair, I loved sitting on tables. It got me caned a lot, but I loved sitting on tables because I would always swing my legs. So I sit and watch Benny Hinn, and in there, the hazy memories that I have is. He pointed to the screen. He was praying for sick people. So he prayed for an 8-year-old who is watching the screen and is sick. I remember, and I'm not even making this up, but I remember it was as if a light from that TV sort of like touched me and I blacked out. My parents say they found me sleeping on the table.
Yeah.
Then I woke up and I told them, I met Jesus. And then like everyone's like, she'll snap out of it, she'll snap. And I don't know, life has not been the same for me. In terms of, I'm a very intuitive person. I've experienced a bit, not to like sound, because this is stuff I rarely talk about, but I've experienced like paranormal, is it called I'm those people with like a heightened sense of like sense.
The sixth sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I'm those people who can have a dream and the thing happens, or I could be there and I'm seated and it's like either a flash or like a series of flashes come into my mind. I can't explain
when
that.
You're just seated there.
Sorry, listener, I can't explain that. But yes.
It's beyond your control, so sometimes.
Initially it would get me very, very scared because I would wonder why other people would see certain, like other people would not see what I would see or would not feel what I felt. But having to walk with Jesus sort of like, I don't know, like it gives me a sense of purpose, but also there is that peace.
Yeah.
So earlier on you had asked me about, church. I had been quite religious for a bit, but it stifled the Jesus I met when I was 8. Like it stifled that relationship. So I sort of
wait. Like, you're a baby at that time. So when you talk about the religious bit that you had experienced,
from like 9 up until like 26, I would be what you'd call those very good Christian church girls. Yeah, because there is beauty in fellowship and all. I don't want to undermine that, but it's just that for me, how I experienced God's love, I kept on trying to find other people that have experienced it like that. Because I always tell people that the way my relationship with my parents is it's the same way. For me, it's a mirror of how I relate with God. They're kind, they're patient. They are present. They're not perfect, but for me, that's how I usually experience God's love. One of the ways I experience it is through like my parents. Church is good and all, but sometimes the laws, the rules, it just takes away from the things we claim Jesus has given us and all. I don't really want to go in there because So for me, as a child, and my curiosity, but also I made that decision and I never snapped out of it. I just never. And with time, Daddy says he also later on became a Christian and gave his life to Christ.
He later on became a Christian. You weren't born in a Christian home?
No. I'm born in a multi-tribal and a multi-religious family. And for me, family is, like, my understanding of family is not, Nabuguzi and I share a mom. We, same mom, same. I've just been brought up in a community, like a family, different tribes, different religions and stuff. So no, back then Daddy was not a born again Christian. Yeah. He was not. He actually was a practicing Muslim.
And how were you, Faith? Were you, or did that change later?
Well, my mom is Catholic.
Ah.
Wow. But he wasn't staunch. He was
yeah.
So growing up in that sort of setting, it was a bit it stretched me, because I get shocked when I see how tribalistic people can be, because I'm like, wait, what? So you are shaming someone, or you're looking down at them because
of the tribe
they are from, and some of these tribes are even they are separated by a tree as a boundary. Get serious.
Because some of the words are even similar, given especially for the Bantu.
Right. It's just so sad. It's so sad how we let those, I won't call them small differences, but it's just sometimes passed down stereotypes or terrible experiences we've had with certain people from certain tribes. These things are a reality though, but I feel like choosing to dwell on them over the beauty, that the opportunities that come with us being different, and diverse offers. Going back still to the introduction, you girl.
Because I had no, you shocked me when you're like, I was like, no, we need to get that. We need to get that.
But yes. So my parents kept on waiting for me to snap out of it, and I never did. But yeah, here I am. I absolutely I don't do a lot of performative, Christianity nowadays.
You've brought it out so right. Performative. I was trying to write something on that.
Yeah.
We're so what?
And by that I mean, for if you are like a Bible reader, you know that you believe with your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. And then as you walk and commune with God, He gives you purpose and stuff. In as much as organized religion is dope, because I had said I didn't want to go there, I find that sometimes, because of how different we are, and it's hard to cater for how different everyone is.
It is.
And so instead of accepting that we're all not going to be the same, we now resort to rules, regulations, to sort of create order, but then we end up being trapped in how we experience God. I remember we would go to Christian camps and they would say, wake up at 6 a.m. and pray.
Why?
At 6 a.m. I am a vegetable. I'm not a morning person at all. At all. So does that mean that God is angry at me because I'm not waking up at 6 a.m.?
So God will not listen to you after 6 a.m.?
Right. Or you have to dress like this to show people.
Show people?
That people need to see that you're different. Okay. But if
show people. That is problematic.
Well, because I know you're from a different doctrine, but to help you understand, a lot of times we believe in showing out our faith. Yeah. That's why you'll find a preacher man at a certain corner because, I'm living out my faith. I'm faith with works, because faith without works is dead. And that's all cool and stuff. However, the trap here comes in with where if Nabuguzi is not waking up at 3 a.m. to capture the gates of time, I'm going to question her Christianity, because how come you're not performing the same acts of obedience or, acts of faith?
Acts of obedience?
I'm really just trying to use kind words to sort of try to help a listener who might not understand, but also to bring a perspective of where most of the people that do these things are coming from. Most of them are not entirely bad or, wicked. It's just that we've failed to realize that if you meet God at 3 a.m., I am so happy for you. I will meet God throughout the day.
Yeah.
I will get times and I'll just whisper under my breath and tell him, man, you seen what my boss has done?
Right,
But
right.
to sort of like explain the performativeness is we try so hard to convince everyone else, hey, come and see, I'm a Christian. Come and see, I'm a loving person.
That's problematic.
I'm a loving Christian. And we fall into being religious versus actually having a relationship. Yet, in most cases, we are telling people, come and have a relationship with God.
I feel like that almost borders the idolatry bit, because
I am no expert, but
it's like you want people to idolize you or something
not
like
quite.
that.
For most people, it's how they let you know about the love of God.
Oh.
I don't even know that I'm communicating. There are certain ways in which people can look at you and tell, oh, this person is a Christian. So a lot of times we are trapped in the, I need to make sure people know I'm a Christian. I need to make sure people see Jesus in me. I need to see, I need to make sure, And that pressure, especially if it's not coming from a place of, I need to. I have the problem with people that say, oh, praise God. But I realize that for me, that's not something I throw. It's not like a greeting I throw around. Am I saying that people that do it are doing it wrong? No. It's just that for me, that is not how I relate with God. And you find that someone will be very offended. You're a Christian, that there are those people that get offended. Or I'm wearing shorts at the moment, and my
on a Sunday,
zero sleeve, sleeveless top, and someone would look at you and like, oh my God, a good Christian woman should ABCD. Do you get? So for me, that set of performing my Christianity for others, I am over it. I'm really over it. Plus, I'm back to my questioning self, and the people that don't believe that you should question certain things about why we do the things we do. And that explains why I'm a feminist. Because for a very long time, I kept on wondering, what did women do to God that they deserve all of these things? To be honest. And then no one would like sit down to either tell you, to be honest, I don't know, or you'll find like, they would like blame it on Eve. But you're like, but yeah, I hear Eve. However, you're telling me there is a new covenant. Why is Eve? Why am I still paying for Eve's sins if
when
there's
Mary who gave birth to Jesus?
Or if there is this new covenant that Jesus brings, to reconcile me with God, and a lot of those questions. So for me, I live out my Christianity in a way that I don't have to prove to you that I am one. Like I got that pressure out. I don't have to prove that I'm a Christian to anyone. But then also I've learned to respect that not everyone is going to be a Christian. And it's not in my authority and power to start condemning who is going to. I'm not assistant hill prefect. So learning that other people outside my faith and my beliefs exist and they deserve to exist has given me so much peace.
So much peace.
I've had to unlearn homophobia, unlearn all these other things that a lot of people attribute to Christianity. Islamophobia, and to just realize that this world was created for everyone, all of us, and we can coexist. We can share our views about our faith. If someone wants to cross path, to cross over, that's absolutely okay. And it gives me peace. I don't know how the fiery Christians are going to take this. I'm not sorry. It gives me way so much peace. Maybe the other thing about me is I do digital communications consultancies. From a social media addict into finding ways of making money off it, but also helping brands and individuals grow. That really makes my heart happy. I already mentioned I'm a feminist, but I also run a rape victims rehabilitation center that I'm really praying one of these days I can finally have like a venue to post and say, there it is.
Here we are.
So for now, for the past 2 years, 1.5 years, I've been doing it, but from online, that someone inboxes me and we see how to help a rape victim. And I work with different organizations to make sure that these rape victims get help and are rehabilitated. And then I host conversations. I mean, clearly, I talk for a living. Used to be on radio. I'm told that I would never drop that media personality title.
I think that's just you.
And
you're natural with it.
Thank you.
You're natural with it.
Thank you. What other thing am I? Who is Mulungi? I am a student of life.
Student of life.
Yeah. And I share what I've learned. If you follow me on my platforms, you know, I love to share if I've learned, you know. I don't know how to hold knowledge. Although at some point if it's to a certain level, you pay.
Yeah.
You pay for it. But if I'm
right.
able to, yeah. And I'm also very passionate about women and children, because one, I've been a child, two, I'm a woman.
You're a woman.
Yeah, but now also learning to see how I can not center myself or be the voice for the voiceless. I don't know if your podcast entertains this conversation, but I'm also learning how to
Who is voiceless? That's something that
right.
keeps,
It's so annoying. Like, no one is voiceless. Just step aside and give them your platform. But I've lately been learning, and still are learning, to not understand, but to like educate myself more about minority groups, the LGBTQI, and to see how I can make space. Like that's where I am.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very controversial conversation, but it's from pretentiousness and fear.
Yeah.
Like I said, we all can exist on here
in
and
some spaces.
There should be space for everyone, and us hiding or putting our heads in the sand because, you know, colonialism happened, and a lot of our fiber as a people has been altered does not mean that certain people don't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
So your father was a little bit scared of your young self.
Yes.
Your moving questionnaire self.
Yes.
What did you, in that moment of your questioning life and the system itself, what do you think you wanted to be while growing up?
I was those children that kept on changing their minds. So, like I mentioned, at some point I joined Compassion International. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to those guys. They are an organization that would help orphans or underprivileged children. Now, my story is I joined in the pilots, not because my parents didn't have money, but because they were trying to run, you know, to get the project running in the area I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so that's how I joined, but they are Christian leaning. So Compassion International would track our progress every term, okay? And then you'd always write what you wanted to be.
Oh.
From TV news anchor,
Every term?
TV host, yes.
It's
Because
more,
we had
I think
goals.
that's beautiful. They allow you to evolve.
I don't know whether that was the goal, but all I know is I was that child that wanted to be a model, a pilot, a what. Like I really just kept on. Every time when I would learn about a new profession, I'd be like, wow, that would be so dope. Oh, I want to be that. Wow, that would be amazing. But I think the top 5 were air hostess. I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help people. Yes, I wanted to be a model.
Had you seen them before?
Yes. I used to watch CNN with my dad.
Hey, I didn't.
And
I didn't know those things.
And so you'd see like Emirates, Qatar Airways, and all those things. All like the airlines, they would advertise back then. And so I kept on changing. And it would like disturb the teachers because for them it looked like as undecided, which maybe they were right about, but I think I was just a child that
But how does that
believed in possibilities.
Don't you think
I thought
that's
like
problematic that teachers have a problem with that?
I think again it goes back to
because it's not like the system allows us to be to follow our particular passions.
It's the system. But then also in the 90s, no, people were not as, I won't say evolving, but I feel like people were a bit scared of what has not been explored. But also again with a system that tells you you're supposed to be a certain way, do things a certain way, and if you don't, you're going to be punished. I wouldn't blame people. It's just that now in this day and age with information on our fingertips or at our fingertips, and you know, the opportunity to learn and be better, I blame you if in this age you still are stuck up and are refusing to grow and evolve.
Right.
So yeah, I really was that child. I in my head I thought that you could be this, pause, or like I thought, and this is something that actually works in my life, I live my life in season. So for me, when certain things end, I'm like, oh, maybe the season was done, the season for this was done. So maybe because I couldn't articulate it then, I thought that you could just be a doctor, serve, and then, you know, then be a teacher, and then be a TV, you know, be on TV.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in their beer model, I loved fashion. I thought I would win like a pageant. Then I noticed that I was short. So for the rest, like,
Wow.
those are some of the careers that I kept on
Rotating
like
around.
gravitating towards. Then I thought of being a politician. Then I didn't know. I didn't know exactly what that meant. So it was like like top 20.
Top 20.
Like, I had a
Wow.
whole list of things that I thought
That's
I wanted
huge.
to do. Yeah.
I was a little bit disturbed when I was growing because mom was broke raising us. So when I joined boarding school, I think it allowed me to interact with kids
Different
more.
kids, yeah.
So you'd see the kids' parents come through. They're driving. So for me, my question is, what does your parent do? Because now I no longer want to be broke, my friend.
I know, right?
If your parent is driving, what do they do? I remember a friend of mine who said accountant. I had never heard that word in my life.
Oh,
Like, what is that? I think that's when I gave up on asking people.
Yeah.
But always when I saw my friends' parents, I wanted to find out what is giving them the money. Because being a nurse is not it.
Funnily, my parents are teachers, and at some point I was like, no, this is not where the money is. This is not where the money is. And then at a certain point, I kept on telling them, I want to adopt children, have a lot of money, and own 2 dogs and travel the world.
Own 2 dogs and travel. What had you seen?
I don't even know. Must have been a movie or something.
Definitely, it can't come out of nowhere. Own 2 dogs and travel the world.
Yeah.
So here you are, a digital communications consultant,
Yeah.
and everything in between, because you're not just one thing.
Yeah. And you know, like, I've always looked at people that say this is what I want to be, and it's one thing and they pursue it. I'm like, whoa, how do you all do it? Because I want it all. Oh, I want to be able to exercise and just, I don't want to niche. I'm a multifaceted person. How, and you know, like, for people like myself, everyone is asking you why. Oh, but you see, it gets a bit confusing. Like, but it's not.
Do you find it challenging sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're filling in, like, let's say, occupation, they want you to write one thing.
Yeah.
And not that it's a bad thing, but, you know, like, the world is yet to be accepting of anyone that tries to not be, like, the norm. And, you know, like, recently I was having a conversation with someone, with Justine, on my Instagram about, you know, how to use Instagram, and you know, at some point it really got, like, in the comment section, everyone is like, but you see, you have to be known for one thing. I'm like, then I am sorry, world. I do all these things. This is me. This is me. These are the things that I'm passionate about, and even with those, I've had to, like, tone down and make time.
Exactly.
So I would struggle with that, but also now I would say that being able to meet other people that are able to explore all these different aspects about their life sort of gives me joy, because that's not something we saw a lot when we were growing up. Because if your mom was a nurse,
That was it.
No side gig, meanwhile. Nothing, please. Nothing. If my dad was, I recently was having a conversation with him. My dad and I, we're like besties, man. So we're having a conversation, and for like 4 years, I'd always tell him, I'm like, we need to find a way of monetizing your passion for teaching, because he had been doing it for years, and we all know how that goes.
Right.
It was not really bringing in the money. And recently someone told him something that changed his mind at his church. So my dad would be liberal in certain parts, and then he would be very rigid in others. So someone told him that, you see, the problem is you are from the analog era, and you made a mistake of crossing over into the digital.
You made a mistake?
Yes. So what they meant is, I think they were probably frustrated by how rigid my dad can be. So that hit, like, that sparked, like, as if a thought process. And recently when I was talking to him, he was like, you know, when someone told me this, at first I was offended. But then I sat through and I'm like, yeah, the things that I've known in my era as a 70s child might have been good, but I need to learn to shed off so that I can grow and adapt for the digital era, for the new era. And hearing him now finally being able to say, oh, this man was telling me about Bitcoin, and in like 4 years back, he would tell you, my only passion is teaching. The only thing I know how to do is teaching. And then he suddenly has all these business ideas. And so I thank the person who dragged him. Thank you, it worked. So it has taken a while for even our parents to get out of that one career mindset. And I'm not saying that people that are in one career are wrong. I mean, if it's bringing in the money, if it's giving you the life that you so desire, go for it. But it's just that the world for a very long time has said, Nabguzi, you can only be this is your occupation, period.
That's killing.
There is no time for any
That's killing. I can't.
And
I can't.
It gets really tricky. But also sometimes for me, I think it would create like imposter syndrome, because I'm like, why aren't I like everybody? And then sometimes comparing myself with other multifaceted people, I'm like, how come?
But
like
we're different.
I have. Well, I'm saying then it would not hit. I have two friends that are nerds. And they are the definition of being nerds. However, when they start, like when you meet their artistic side, they are so good at it. So for me, I would look at them like, but how come? I would feel like how I do my things is a bit mediocre, and that would leave me so stressed. And then I'll be like, maybe this is, God's way of showing me that I need to like get rid of this thing and just focus on one thing. So that is one of the things that I've also struggled with, comparing myself to other people. And I would gladly say I'm doing really, really well now, being able to realize that just because like that success and excellence can have different faces as well. Right. For others, it could be winning awards and competitions. And for some of us, it could just be putting a smile on someone's face, and that's okay. Not that you should not grow or whatever, but being able to allow to just embrace your journey and who you are, and making things better without self-sabotaging or being too hard on yourself in comparison to other people whose lives you don't even know
they barely
much
show
about.
you.
Or like you see curated content, like you were saying on Instagram, with all these very nice photos.
I couldn't catch up.
We are all here trying to put our best foot forward.
I couldn't.
So for me, as a multifaceted person, those are some of the challenges that I've had to like overcome. Still are in the process, but at least there is progress.
Right. You've used your media platforms to share content that I feel like, oh my God, this is strong to come out with. The very first one I read was when you shared your rep experience. And I find it very powerful for you to come to a place of creating spaces for people to find healing for that. And then just recently you went on to share something on endometriosis. I don't know.
Remember what I said, that I'm a student of life?
Student of life.
And being in, let's say, like a public space, or tempted to say public eye, but yes. But sometimes I still, in my mind, I'm like, no, and I'm like, no one knows me.
Hey, friend.
Not in like a bad sense. I'm like, because no one knows me.
I'll just
after all, get out. So I remember the first time I spoke about, the rape incident. I was so scared, but it brought healing for me, because it kept on feeling like it was a filthy secret that I had kept that was just eating at me. And I shared it on radio. It was during Easter period. I used to work at Power FM.
Wait, I've gotten goosebumps.
I used to work at Power FM.
I thought you had just written. I read.
Well, now let me tell you where it started, or how I think I was about 28 then, and this is something that happened when I was 19. So during that time, the Easter period, there is usually like a campaign where we encourage the listeners that, if you're having struggles like with addictions and stuff like that, there is hope, like you can be free, because Easter is about the freedom that Christ purchased for us at the cross.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about the like rock bottom and rising from it. And I remember being very scared because I was like, this is something I've told a few loved ones and a few friends. How will it be perceived? Then I remembered that, you know what, someone out there might need this story.
Right,
someone out there might like I didn't like in that moment like sit and just philosophize or anything. I just said, you know what, maybe there is just one person there that needs to know they're not alone. So I shared it on radio, and then at one time I tweeted about it. I rarely like go into details, but at least I know that from the time I started speaking about it, I had feared that people would know me as, that girl with a rape story. Like how sometimes people, can reduce you to a story. And that is what birthed the Rape Victims Rehabilitation Center. A bit later, the idea of creating a space like that. And the women that got in touch with me, the different, like everyone that was like, hi, I'm going through this. Thank you for sharing your story. Even I'm going through this. That for me, sort like it just stirred something in me, to be honest. And it showed me that sometimes we are going to have to, especially let's say if you're in the public eye, because people look at you and think life is perfect. And I know like with how the media loves, the media loves to eat on a terrible story. Like they would go and just hound you. So people are tempted to just be all roses and, and perfume and all things nice. But I think for me, I've learned that, sometimes the vulnerability, if it's well thought through and if it's for a reason, can help someone out there. And like I share, like for like times I'll be like an overshare. And if you're on radio, these people become like your family. So you share the listeners. So sharing about it and being able to, if I get a phone call, if I get a text of someone that is stuck, and seeing those girls, those women, those children being able to rise up from that terrible incident gives me joy. It really gives me joy, because it's sad that we live in a world where these things happen.
Right.
But to remind anyone that has gone through that ordeal that there is more to your life. Like, first of all, it wasn't your fault. I don't care what the circumstances were. It was not your fault. And there is healing. You can move forward. So when I shared my story on rape, that's the space I was coming from. And because we also need to normalize this conversation. Rape culture thrives in the culture of silence. The abuse of women and children and even men who rarely want to admit it, that they go through abuse. The system of abuse thrives on the silence of victims, but also the stifling of them to be able to be believed, to get help, and to be held, for their hands to be held through it.
Right.
And so maybe that was my little way of, like we were talking about earlier, of just saying, I may not be able to like dismantle the whole system, but I can start somewhere. When I got my diagnosis for endometriosis, I was not broken, to be honest. I really wasn't, because for a very long time, for a very long time, I kept on having this pain that I knew was there, but no one believed me for years. And when I say no one believed me, I'm talking about the medical practitioners. You would take time to explain the intricacies of how the pain would operate. And you'd be told, those are normal cramps.
You're overreacting.
You're overreacting. Our parents, our grandmothers, like, I don't have to go through a baptism of suffering simply because there has been a system that has normalized pain and suffering for you to listen to me and give me a solution. So, but also Gabrielle Union's story of, struggling with adenomyosis. And how you're given a diagnosis that you can't even pronounce at first.
Like, I beg your pardon?
Like, huh? How did I even spell that? Like, how, little body, how do you even have an illness that we cannot spell?
There is something I also can't spell. Oh my goodness, that was
And every
funny.
time someone asks me, and what? I'm like, go Google, I swear. Just type in endo.
Yeah.
Me. The rest will come. Because it's so sad that we live in a generation of information that is still struggling with ignorance.
Yeah. That. It based my
And
mind.
with the way the system is built, even us women do not know so much about our reproductive system. So, like how we are now normalizing the conversation around mental health. At the back of my mind, it had never hit me. I mean, even stomachs get gastric ulcers, you get food poisoning, you get all these things. Even throats get, you get a sore throat, you get a cold, you get uteruses, if that's the plural. If it's not, I'm not sorry. English
Could
is not
be
my...
uteri. I don't know.
English is not... I don't like English like that. But a uterus is a body organ that can also fall sick. So that's the lens I decided to look at this from. That we've told women you exist to birth children. That's it. So for barren women, even when you go to churches and you hear how they speak of, women that are unable to naturally bring children or conceive children, there is stigma around it, but there should not be.
They actually guilt trip them.
Exactly, there should not be, because just as someone will have a hearing impairment, the uterus also has complications and illnesses. I don't know how many times women that probably will listen to this will tell you, if you have like fibroids, the first thing medical personnel are going to tell you is, get a child, have a child. Like, we are normalizing pain so much that we don't even want to make research into why women's bodies operate the way they do and how we can make our existence and experience while here on earth much better and less painful. So for me, after years and years and years, like, because I'm told that endometriosis takes about 8 to 10 years of being diagnosed. But for me, from the look of things, had I been believed 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I would not be diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis.
Stage 4.
Yes. And the surgery, God bless everyone at Alexander Medical Center, got very complicated, because the procedure of diagnosing it is through a surgical procedure called a diagnostic laparoscopy, where they put cameras into your system. This illness is for real seeing, because I'd done it all, scans, MRI. The MRI only showed that condition called adenomyosis. Just for, to not assume, but also to encourage you to go and, read up about it. It helps, because you never know who around you might be going through this. So the uterine lining that we shed every month during menstruation, when that lining finds itself outside of the uterus, that is when endometriosis happens. And what happens is, when it grows outside, it goes through the same changes the uterine lining in the uterus goes through. So that means if it has landed on top of an ovary, when I'm going through my menstrual cycle, when it's time for the lining to be shed out, the area it has grown on is going to experience the same. But remember, it's only the uterus that is built to shed the dead cells like that. The area that lining has landed is not built to handle that. So it's going to cause a lot of scarring, it's going to cause a lot of inflammation, it's going to cause a lot of pain, but also it grows and then starts, there is a condition they call a frozen pelvis, where I almost was having that, where it just starts as if gluing the different organs together. Yes. So every time there is pain and there is discomfort, when we are going through our menstrual periods. That is normal. But
Right.
cramps where you cannot function, cramps where you cannot walk, cramps where you are fainting, cramps where you are going to need a blood transfusion, that is not normal. And no, you are not being weaker than your grandmother, because guess
Right.
what? Even when you talk to those women, they had herbs. They had ways of trying to cope with the pain. And menstruation is not a taboo. It's a normal bodily function. The same way we go to the toilet and either do a number 1 or a number 2, same thing. It's just that this one involves blood. So when I decided to speak, when I managed to pull through surgery, that was very intricate and very, like, I spent, the diagnosis usually takes 1 hour. I spent 4.
Wow.
Excuse me. I spent 4. And, the fact that endometriosis can grow in your stomach, it can grow because I currently have bits of it in my intestines. It can even grow until your lungs. Now, I don't want to imagine what that pain is like. I do not want to imagine what that pain is like. So it's important for us to know that these things exist. There are fibroids, there are cysts. Adenomyosis is when that lining grows in the muscle, in the uterine muscle. Now you imagine how painful that is.
Goodness.
So these things happen. They're underdiagnosed because, again, we've normalized that women deserve pain, and we should not do that. But then also it's very costly. Let me tell you, Han, being able to raise the money to finally do that surgery. The other time someone called me and they were like, how much did you spend on your surgery? Because I've been asked for $2,500. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, a hospital. And that's not even all. Why this is a very important conversation is for us to look at our diet. How are you eating? How are you feeding your body? We don't even understand. You go to a doctor and you're told, oh, you have hormonal imbalance. But there is not so much awareness of, hey, if you eat A, B, C, D, you'll help your body. If this is what causes it, this is how you can aid your body. This is the first thing you're told is you're slapped with is either get pregnant or here are contraceptives.
Right.
And we just want to rush and get it over and done with. But these are people's lives. This is productivity halted. I forget the statistics, but the other time I read about how the illnesses around our reproductive system stifled the productivity of women at work. And let's not even go into the fact that sometimes when we talk about work, we are excluding what is looked at women's duties, working at home. So when I was sharing about this, I knew it was because this is something I didn't talk to most people about my surgery. I talked to my very close friends because I needed the support. I needed a bit of help with the bills because then I had done like scans like I'd mentioned, and I am a freelancer. Plus, most medical insurance does not cover chronic illnesses. So opening up about it on the internet was a very huge decision for me because that is something that I looked at as very intrusive, by the virtue of the fact that we are looked at to be as valuable as how functional our uterus is. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to be looked at? But then I again, going back to the same motivation, the rape story, I'm like, some woman out there needs to hear this. And so when I broke the news on Instagram, I decided to have 2 months of Twitter spaces with a guy, Dr. Ozele, that they just helped give us free knowledge.
Right.
Because we don't know. When you get a fibroid, when you get a cyst, when you get all these, when you have PCOS, this is stuff that we usually keep quiet about because everyone is looking at you like you are cursed. But these are body organs. They fall sick.
Right.
And our bodies are built very differently. So I had to sacrifice a bit of comfort, but I was like, you know what? This might not win me a medal. I might not get money. But you see, I've gotten this knowledge from personal experience. And who knows, someone out there needs to hear that it's okay if you only get your menstruation, you know, instead of once every month. If yours comes like twice, you need to know that, you know what, there could be a problem, and seek for help. And so for me, that's where I was coming from. And usually for everything that I share, I sit and I ask myself, okay, what's the point? Am I ready for
what may come?
For
after
not even
it?
what might come, but am I ready to let the world in like this?
Right.
What's the purpose? If I don't know, and it's sort of, it's scary again, but I believe that situations or experiences like mine are not only for me to know about. You know, I've experienced them, yes, but someone out there, women go through the most because we are silent.
Right.
And so if I can utilize the platforms that I have to educate and inform someone out there, those spaces were so informative, and the women that learned things, like, it was shocking, but necessary.
Right.
And I don't really have any regrets about it.
Yeah.
No, like it's possible, and it's okay if you feel like, oh my goodness, because it's scary.
It
are
is scary.
trying to break a system that tells you if you're beaten, it's your fault, keep quiet. If you're raped, was it a child? Oh, he raped a child. Oh my God, what a brute. Oh, that's a slay queen, you know? Oh, you are getting fibroids and cysts because you people don't want to give birth. But it's a lie.
Oh my goodness.
It's a big lie. There's so much misinformation. So if I can play a little part, if life has thrown into my way and there is a way I can find, you know, if there's a way I can help inform someone else out there about it, and they make smarter and faster decisions, or they demand for better than I did, the better.
It's powerful. You know, when I read about it, I'm really rare on Instagram. So I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this I texted you. I think I've only texted you twice or thrice. And it's all been from a place of thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability, you know. It builds community. People get to see themselves in some conversations or some of the content that you get to share. So you've shared quite a lot and moving experiences in your life. What has it been like? I don't know if you remember the very first time I met you, we were having a mental health kind of convergence. So what has it been like for you and your mental health? How do you keep check?
Therapy. One, therapy. And not to throw it around like it's some abracadabra that opens that special cave. But I think the willingness to have my mental health in order. Also the fact that my experiences have been tough. Life has thrown some pretty, like, there are things that I don't even share.
Right.
But knowing that there is a way that I can be able to work through it and get better and heal, if there's a space for me to have fully functional mental health or to get help, and being tired of being hurt and sad and all these things. Not that it's bad to be, but from a place of I've carried this for a very long time, especially if it's the root cause for why I'm holding myself back. I think for me that's what drives me to do therapy, but also to learn to look inward and discover who is Faith. Okay, everyone has told me about who I am, but who am I? Why do I do the things that I do? How can I get better? How can I meet me and fall in love with me and accept me before I think that the world should love and accept me? So that is how I've been able to keep in check. A few daily practices. I have a calm app. I meditate. But I also realize that no one else is going to do the work for me. And that's from several failed attempts at relationships where you realize that you cannot run away from yourself. You cannot run away from your trauma because you're either going to project onto someone, you are going to think everyone hates you, and that's on you. Like, we are allowed, I think it's a friend of mine that said that it's sad what has happened to you. It's sad the trauma you've had to go through, but it is your responsibility. I think it was Rita Auma. She's like, it's your responsibility to either heal or just define yourself by the trauma you've gone through. And it's painful, but it's accountability. So in the bid to like be a better sister, a better lover, a better feminist, a better therapy, because I reached a place where I was just tired. 2020 began with Ugandan women flooding the internet.
That was 2020.
That
was
with
quite
stories of their experiences, and I could not be on Twitter for 3 weeks. I was mad triggered, and so my friends were like, "You can't go on like this. The person that assaulted you is out there living their best life.
They move on.
It's sad what has happened. Sometimes they don't even, like, not to excuse them, but sometimes they don't even notice. Because some of this rape culture has normalized so many things,
and
the entitlement to women's
meanwhile
bodies.
they are shocked.
Sometimes they don't even recall.
Some are shocked. I was like, no,
that's not how it happened.
Exactly.
Of course, gaslighting and all, but some of them are actually really shocked. Me, I thought, a boyfriend can't rape their girlfriend. Me, I thought a husband can't rape their wife. Me, I thought a wife can't rape their husband. It's been so normalized. While you're here, your mind haunts you. You remember every single detail. It's sad that it has happened, but that's not how you should, that's not how life should be lived, especially. And I know it's a privilege to even afford therapy.
It is.
So I started with a friend gifted me the Calm app, then I started with YouTube. But I was also at that space where I felt lost. I just needed to find, there were so many coping mechanisms, there were so many masks that I had learned to live by that had run their course. They had run their course, and now I either had to get deeper into other unhealthy coping mechanisms or just go backwards and do the work and start to heal. And when I realized that that is also an opportunity for me to be able, that I can go through the mud and be able to make peace with what has happened to me and stop using it as a reason to hold myself back, I took the chance. And of course, my friends, I'm just really blessed with that. They paid for, I think, about 6 months of therapy.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I know it's expensive, but also, guys, with us seeking for information, you can actually find affordable therapy. So therapy, but also being able to, because I used to think we can pray certain things away. There are things that God gave us hands and the body and the brains for, that you will pray down until you get up and do them, because those are now within your domain. You have to get up. It's like you can't pray yourself into, I've woken up in the morning and let me pray so that I'm fully showered. You have to go. Yeah, so that's exactly,
you have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
Yeah.
So it's tough, it's hard, but I think that my being tired and exhausted of walking around wounded and hurt and bleeding on others, and there's this distorted view of myself, and the compliments, for a very long time I would not even know how to take a compliment. I would not look at my mirror and see a beautiful woman. I would not. And that puts you at risk for predatory people. That puts you at risk for sabotaging yourself out of opportunities. And when I learned that there is a possibility of me finding a way of working through the things I've gone through to be better, I'm glad I took the chance. And it's a continuous process, but also not just going for therapy, but being very honest about where I want to go and putting in the work.
Putting in the work.
Yeah.
I feel like it's quite obvious taking it that you've said putting in the work, what is a word that you would want to leave with the listeners? A word of advice?
One of the things that's going to help you, that is helping me, that I jumped late onto the wagon, is self-awareness. To be self-aware is such a good thing.
Right.
Being self-conceited is one thing, being self-aware is another. And a lot of times when we do things like personality tests, sometimes we use that as an excuse to maintain our bad behavior. Don't be that person.
Right.
When you have noticed that you struggle with something, when you have noticed that your temperament is, probably the reason you've been doing things a certain way, use that information and see how you can better yourself.
Right.
And of course, there is that danger of continuously chasing a better version of yourself, but also there is using the information or the knowledge of self to realize how that plays out in this great big world, and how that saves you a lot of time and a lot of mistakes, but also learning from other people's mistakes. That's one of the things that has saved me. But of course, with life, you can't escape certain things, but sometimes where possible, if you can escape going through it, look at others and do better for yourself.
Right.
Probably the very last thing is, there is space for everyone. There is space for everyone. Let's learn to live and let live.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you for having me.
My takeaway from this episode is that we have to be intentional in whatever we set our minds on, especially healing. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Hashtag with Nabguzi Chwanuka. If you loved what you heard, make sure you subscribe to Hashtag with Nabguzi Chwanuka in your podcast platform of choice and share it with your friends. Let them know that we are consuming content that is relevant in our times. Feel free to also share your insights about what connected with you on social media, and be sure to tag us. We are at Hashtag We are at Hashtag with Nabguzi Chwanuka on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter our handle is at HTNK Podcast. You can also reach us on our email at the email is htnkpodcast@gmail.com, and I really look forward to hearing from you. Remember to do the work. Ciao.